Hello, listening people.
Hello.
Hello, Bartek. How are you doing?
I'm doing. How are you, Ryan?
I am doing two.
Two? Not
Yeah.
one?
Not one. Not Trey.
Not ch? What-
Tre.
What's three in French again? Trois?
Trois. Trois.
Un, deux,
Quatre.
un, deux,
Understand? Yeah. Un, deux, trois. Yeah.
Yeah, then
We-
vache.
We are here today, everyone, on Spit and Polish to present to you not just two spitting young Polish gentlemen, but our show Pictures Powwow, in which we talk about a movie that has come recommended from someone. It can be you, the listening people. It can be one of us hosts here on the podcast that recommends the film. We actually do have a cycle, a roster of recommendations, and it has fallen onto me this time to recommend a film. It was Bartek last week, and then next week it will be you, the listening people, whose film we shall be discussing. But today it is my film, and I recommended one of the Three Colors movies. There's a film trilogy out there, the Three Colors. This is Blue, the first one. There's Blue, White, and Red. Films dealing with very interesting themes and messages, and it relates to the French, but it's made by Polish people.
So I'm really disoriented. This is like the fastest we've ever gone into what the
I'm sorry.
podcast is.
I'm sorry. What's happening in Poland?
I think this is my fourth sentence of the episode right now, and we already know what the film is.
Yeah, sorry.
What's happening in Poland?
Yeah.
Oh, I did read something yesterday about the Polish president saying something.
What's his
but
name?
I've already forgotten.
How
it's
could
just not
you...
as memorable as Duda.
It's not as memorable as Andrzej Duda.
Hey, you remembered
Was
Andrzej.
Andrzej Duda a fan of Three Colors Blue? Probably not, because it's the French one. The next one, Three Colors White, is the Polish one. But something happened with the Polish president. Bartek has thankfully told us that, and we shall forever remember.
He made a comment about something, but I can't remember what it was.
He made a comment?
Apparently he has opinions.
Wait, a politician with opinions? I think that's unlikely.
Karol Nawrocki.
What did Karol say this time? Which is, I do believe, unless it's different spelling, the name of the main character of Three Colors White. His
I think
name
Karol,
is Karol.
yeah.
That's his name. That's a character's name. He's Karol, who does appear in this film in a brief cameo.
It's something about... Oh, right, because there was like a Russian, plane flew over Polish airspace, and...
I swear this happens all the time. I swear we've talked about this very concept before.
Well, that was probably the assassination of my friend, the president, a while ago. But no, there was a thing where...
Just to clarify, Bartek has met some Polish presidents or interacted with them, and one of them died in a plane crash. That was most likely an assassination.
the one that I met.
Most likely an assassination from the Russians.
Yeah,
but...
Lech Kaczynski. No, the Russian plane flew over Poland a couple of days ago, as of this recording, and the Polish president enacted some sort of, I think it was like a UN treaty or article about how the other members could voice their opinions about this being a bad thing and maybe show support. And someone was saying that this is only the second time this thing has ever been enacted. The first time was 9/11.
Oh, very good.
So it's not something that happens every day.
And that is the Polish updates. But today we are here to talk about Three Colors Blue, the film. And this is the first of the trilogy, but this trilogy is made up of... weirdly interconnected, but they're also very isolated movies from what I understand. They're thematically and tonally different from one another, stylistically too.
Yeah,
Each one has a different cinematographer, but the same director at the helm of them. And there is a color motif, obviously by the name of
French
them.
Flag colors.
The French flag colors.
If we pretend that blue doesn't exist, it's the Polish colors.
And each film deals with a theme relating to those colors and or the French national
French
identity.
national values, I think.
So this one was freedom/liberty.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. And the others deal with their own things. So hopefully one day we'll get to the other films, but today we're talking about Three Colors Blue. The summary...
What's the French title?
I don't speak the French. What's the Polish title?
Trzy kolory niebieski.
And as we stated, this is directed, and a lot of this is helmed by Polish people, even though people associate this all with the French. There's a lot of Polish people that made these films.
The Polish filmmaker is named Krzysztof Kieślowski. I giggled for a second because I had the Wikipedia page for Karol Nawrocki opened up and I almost said his name.
Don't say it, don't think it. But the summary for this film is a woman is mourning the loss of her husband and child. That's the movie. There's more, well, kind of. It's about the cycles of grief, the way that we find ourselves stuck, and how this woman in particular wants to be alone.
Get into seclusion,
but human connection and music find ways of coming to your door in very specific and even literal ways. So although it's a very simple summary, the potency of how this is all executed is very real and very effective. So everyone, please make sure to watch this film for yourself. It's very good. I will just say that straight up top. I have never seen any of these films before, but they've always been on my watch list. I think I said this last time, but people of our generation, we grew up with the Edgar Wright Cornetto trilogy movies, and he would always reference, like, you know, in a way, I'm like making a little reference to the Three Colors movies, where here's the different colors of the Cornetto flavors, and each movie is going to be genre different and stylistically different and thematically different, but there's going to be a cohesion in a way. And I like that idea. I like this idea of this cinematic universe in a way that's interconnected but also not, and they're dealing with different things, but yet there's also a lot of crossover, whether it is with literal characters or just moods.
Yeah, it's the same universe, but it's not necessarily all like one long running narrative. Like, from what we understand, there's one scene like 3/4 of the way through the film where the main character walks into a courtroom and sees this Polish man, you know, making a case, the first line of him making a case at a trial, and that's apparently the opening scene of the next film. And but then she's shooed away, and, you know, that's not relevant to the rest of the film.
You can watch these in isolation and still enjoy them as movies, is from what I understand.
I've heard the ending of Red, not as much, but but otherwise, yeah.
But Bartek, what about you? Have you seen these before? Heard of these before?
I think I've only heard of them from you. It's not something that I've naturally heard otherwise. I'm implying that you're unnatural, Ryan.
I'm filth. Yeah.
But no, you've talked about them a little bit, that you're interested in them, and, you know, tangentially I'm also interested in them as well. So when you recommend it, it's like, oh, we're actually getting into that thing you've mentioned a couple of times. Let's check it out.
And what did you think of it? I've already revealed that I thought this was quite good.
Yeah, not bad. I didn't love it, but it was good, and it's definitely gotten me interested in checking out the rest. I think I'd want to see the whole thing before I can fully decide, like, oh yeah, you know, having the full context of this trilogy, I can really appreciate this one more. There's a lot of good stuff in this one.
I just want to get this out of the way since we've already talked about it, but the Polish filmmaker behind this.
What was his name again, Ryan?
Yeah, what was his name? It was like the Polish version of Chris.
Yeah, Krzysztof Kieślowski.
Kieślowski, but he was quite a well-known Polish filmmaker. Made a few films before this of note and/or television programs.
Yeah,
he did
something about the Ten Commandments.
Yes, the Decca tapes or something along those lines. But those are quite well beloved, and I've even seen the poster of that one. When you look it up on IMDb, I've seen that be emulated in other pieces of media. Just, it has a very striking look.
There was some quote from Stanley Kubrick about that, where it was something along the lines of, like, this is the only, like, amazing piece of art that was made in my lifetime or something.
Worth checking out, I think. Yeah. But we had a bit of a discussion at the end of our last episode about, like, what makes a film from what specific country.
Yes.
Like, how many elements, how many things directly in the movie or behind the scenes contribute to that. And just reading, like, a bunch of the trivia for this movie and just seeing a lot of the names in the in the credits, it's so many Polish figures throughout it, and yet
There was a real balance of
There's
Polish and French.
there's a lot of like this idea, this whole trilogy is just like it's a French thing. Like I didn't know until like last year that this was made by a Polish guy. I thought this was all French. I even thought like very early on when I heard about this, I thought they were historical dramas. Like I thought they were like when I heard like
right.
the first one's dealing with liberty and freedom. I thought, oh, this is going to be like a French historical thing.
Yeah,
and then the
French-
next one's dealing with this thing. And I thought, oh, and then I realized, no, they're not. They're like contemporary stories and they're dealing with them in their very unique ways. And I knew about like the emphasis of color in each one, like not only in the title, but like visually
motif.
speaking. There's a lot of uses of blue in this film, and the meaning of it is really contextual.
You got some scenes where it's pretty tinted, a little bit blue.
Yeah, and like the meaning of it, the mood of it is very specific to given scenes. Like blue, like colors in general can communicate across many ideas, many feelings. It can mean many things to different people and or cultures. Like the second film being white, it's like, well, that's set in Poland, so it's snowy, but the color white has so many different meanings to people and cultures. Like in some cultures it's innocence, some it's death.
Yeah,
like,
and Asian cultures.
yeah, but I really was kind of unaware of like these films like background. I thought like, oh, these were made by like the French government and they were really acclaimed, but no, it was their like French backed films, like financially speaking, and then like they just let this Polish guy kind of run wild with like, here's the idea, we want you to make some movies about France, incorporate these colors, off you go.
Yeah, do your thing with this criteria.
And boy did he. Boy did he with this one, at least. We can't speak for the other two, but boy did he with this one, because this is the only one from what I've read is set in France. The others are not.
Well, we know that the opening scene of the next one must be.
Yeah, but you're properly set in France.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, so do we know where the last one's set?
I don't know.
Okay. Ooh, mystery.
I don't know. I know that the lead
The Red
actress
Sea.
is French-Swiss, so I'm wondering if it's Swiss. I don't know. I haven't.
Is it even Europe?
I know that people hold red and blue as like the contenders of the best. Like,
Okay.
and white is considered the outlier because it's a comedy.
Sorry, Carol.
Sorry, Carol. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up the Polish aspect of this because we've covered a few Polish films now, a couple, and I thought what was very stand out about this was I actually did think about the stylistic choices that we've seen pop up in Polish movies before.
We've done 3 up to this point.
And how some of that was present in this, because Blue is a very grounded film. Stylistically speaking, it can be very heightened, but the performances and the subject matter is very grounded, very, very serious, very real, but it has these dramatic, directional, stylistic audio touches as well that are super extravagant at points and like very heightened, but they like tap into that primal emotional thing. And it did make me think to I guess less chaotic extent of On the Silver Globe, like how that movie would like tap into these things in a very specific way. And there were some moments of this, specifically like the sound, the cacophony of noise and then the removal of noise, that I was reminded of when it came to that film and this film. And although they're very different, like that one's aggressive, this one's more melancholy. I was just noting, like in the Polish oeuvre we've covered, that is kind of like a film language that we've seen. Even when we did Ashes and Diamonds, we were talking about how it uses a lot of the typical visual language of certain genres, but doesn't do them in the ways that, say, the Hollywood contemporaries or even like the French or European contemporaries do them. So I thought it was just very interesting just to chew on that angle of it.
I've talked about a couple of times when we've done films from, various European countries that they have a very, and the phrase I use is like European sensibility to them. And you mentioned already like the difference from like a Hollywood production. That's kind of what I get at when I talk about that European sensibility. It almost kind of bleeds into also when we talk about Japanese films, how their Japanese storytelling, very emotional. There's a bit of like a bleeding effect there where they're kind of similar. And this one definitely the emotional journey is one of the biggest parts of it. There were some points in this film where, I was not necessarily knowing where it was going or what its, final,
Point?
emotional point was going to be, but the emotional journey, I could at least, very bold-facedly see what was happening there. This is a woman who's struggling, and thinking about that theme of liberty, which, I walked into this film knowing about that theme of liberty, trying to work out, like, okay, what does that really mean? And, connecting, basically trying to reach the conclusion that I already kind of heard about, that it's going to be about this theme, and just connecting what's happening on screen to that. And I was like halfway right about things.
And that European sensibility, is very prevalent in that theme of liberty, because if you think of it, liberty, you're thinking, oh, there's going to be more of an uplifting quality. But the way that they do liberty in this movie is the liberation one feels when you've lost everything. That's where it starts. That's the liberty of what happens to a woman who's lost all of the things that she cares about, and liberty from that. And it's like, that's such a, you could say, cynical or very a pointed way of going about that theme. But by the end of the movie, it just feels true. Like, what does personal liberty and freedom look like? Because liberty, and as I even stated a little while ago, that's such a huge concept that I assumed that this would be a huge trilogy about huge incidents, but it's actually very much about these little things.
Yeah, very personal.
Very personal. So liberty in the European way of it is, of course, after having lost everything, what does that look like? And Ashes and Diamonds, the Polish film we covered only just recently, did a lot of the same things with similar concepts of like, what does this look like? But it has to be in the aftermath of losing everything, or everything is about to be lost. Yeah. What do you do
World
with
War
that?
II literally just ended today.
And these films are from the 90s, and you do have, it's not like vocalized, but there is like this sense of just like, Europe's just gone through a whole bunch of change.
There's a line later on in this film that really stuck with me. It was when she was in that club and she saw, the TV screen across the way, and her, new love interest is there having an interview.
And there's footage of her and her child on this TV.
Yeah, there's a line that someone says, I can't remember who, where they talk about we haven't established this, the husband that she lost is a famous composer that like was just nationally loved.
An institution himself.
Yeah,
basically.
And they were talking a little bit in this interview about like, oh, the wife's lost these people, but also the nation has also lost. He belonged to the nation, something along those lines.
He was more than a person.
Yeah, and that really connected with me, especially when looking at what this character was doing. There would be an expectation of like, you're this person's widow. There must be some sort of grandness to that, and she chose, no, I want to put all of that aside, start from a completely blank slate, fresh seclusion.
No music anymore.
And having, many...
No children anymore.
Yeah, many, like, little roadblocks along the journey where people were connecting to her when she didn't want to. And then this point in the film where she hears that and starts to realize, like, oh, there was more to this husband character. It felt like the rest of the film after that was, like, her coming to terms with that in a different way and kind of reevaluating what she really wants.
I really connected with this film and with Juliet, our main character. Grief is a very powerful thing, and it affects people differently. And there was so many moments where she did things, and I understood it, and I've been there, and I've done those things, or variants of those things. One of the most two of the most effective scenes early on that hooked me into this character's like mental scape is she finds, I can't remember if she's like the housemaid or like another, like a woman in her big lavish manner crying.
It was the maid.
And that woman's crying because she hasn't cried. It's like, I'm crying because you aren't crying. And it's like the tension is there. And then to see her have to comfort this woman who's crying, and you can see in her face like she still isn't there to like she's still not going to cry herself.
Mm.
And it's like I get that. That's something I understand. I've been there. I've felt that. But the other one I thought was actually my favorite scene of the movie was she's at the piano and she's like playing some keys or whatever, and you see this like haunted expression on her face, this vacant expression, but also it's like the music is getting more and more. She's kind of getting into it, but you also see her other hand is like twiddling with the I don't know what you call it, like the thing that's keeping the piano lid open. She's twiddling with that, and then she obviously lets it slip and it closes the lid. And then you see like she just takes this big sigh, just like this, clench her teeth, and just that moment of just that agony and just like that frustration and just I've got to accept that this is happening. And I thought that was very, very good. And I've been there many times myself, and I just love like that honest portrayal of like you're trying to entertain the idea of what makes you happy whilst also self-sabotaging and then feeling bitter about that, but then also just coming to terms with like this thing is over, something's interrupted it, and it's like your own self-sabotage has interrupted it, or life outside of you has interrupted it, and you can't go back to that, but also if you did, you would be happy. It's like all of these things packed in to a sequence that has no dialogue, a sequence that just relies on the viewer being able to put themselves in the position of this person and or realize maybe you have been in this position yourself, or maybe you are capable of being in it. Like, the story itself is supremely simple, as mentioned, but it's about what hits about it is all of these moments of just capturing and viewing what it is like to be alone in grief, and what do you do with that, and how are you when you are alone in grief.
Yeah, and what a weird double play of wanting to be alone but also wanting to let others in. Yeah, it's very it takes a while for her to really come to terms with that. Like, I'm thinking of when she lets in, she just kind of comes in, the lady that lives near her, a couple of rooms down, the one who's treated as the whore of the apartment. She comes in and she's like making conversation, walking around, saying this and that, while, she wasn't properly like invited in, and, our main character's trying to basically like go about her business, like, oh, I'll go to my kitchen, clean something, and the other woman realizes like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much or something. Just this very awkwardness where she can feel something's going on here. And
there's just, I was reading up about some people's reactions to this. Roger Ebert was talking about like how this character, she makes so many choices you don't understand, but you still want to watch her to see where this leads. And I found that fascinating to think about, because I never had that with her while watching it. Like, everything she did made sense to me on like some emotional level. I'm like, yeah. And it made sense to a lot of the other characters too. The thing that is compelling when you're looking at the other characters and like her distancing from them is this tragic event can only matter to them so much. So they go about their lives, they move on, and in some moments that seems cruel of them, or it seems so easy.
Yeah, it's very relatable.
Them. And yeah, and our main character's like, my whole world has ended. What do I have? I have nothing now. Even though she still has riches and lavish lifestyle, and she can just up and leave and go wherever, or she could have her own music career. None of those things matter, but like, I really liked how she interacted and reacted to all of these other people, because it is that like you oscillate as a person where you have resentment for people, but then you don't, because it's like, well, it's not there for, like, I want to be like them. She wants to be like them too, but also she has like this wall up against them because they're already moving on. They want to take his music. Like, that's a great symbol of the movie, is like these other people want to take his music.
It's such a beautiful thing. Why
It's
would
such
we
a
throw it
beautiful
away?
thing.
Yeah.
And it's what he would have wanted. And those type of things. And that doesn't matter to her, but then it does. And then also there's the thing of, it's her music, probably.
Yeah.
Most likely. And the film doesn't put a definite, like, doesn't put a definite line
it's definitely
line
not,
under that. But
it's definitely not 0% hers.
Yeah. So a lot of things to think about with that.
Yeah, the film does a recurring thing at multiple points, where it happens like 3 or 4 times. Characters talking to her, and then big musical sting will happen. It'll fade to black, then fade back in, and the scene just continues.
Yes.
When I was watching the film, actually, just quickly, does that happen the first time when the guy who witnessed the car crash approached her, or does that happen earlier in the film?
I can't remember the first time it happened. I remember the couple other times, but it does happen like 3 times. And
okay.
Yes.
Because it happens a bit of a ways in. I'm like, oh, did this happen before and I somehow didn't notice? But yeah, that's the earliest I remember. But anyway, it happens a couple of times in the film. Character will come up to her and they'll say something, and then that's when this very soap opera-y kind of like big, grand classical musical sting happens, fades out to black, fades back in, continues. And
in the same scene. Like, we haven't progressed in time. We haven't cut to a new scene.
You can cut out that whole transition and the scene will just keep going. And that was a very effective thing that happened. And I was wondering, as I was watching, like, oh, what could this mean? What could this mean? I actually thought the film was going for a bit of a like unreliable storytelling thing. Like, oh, at this point, it's highlighting that she has a decision of like how she's going to respond to what this person's saying. And it's like, is what we're going to see like the most ideal thing she could say, but maybe not necessarily the truth of what was happening. And when the film ended, there wasn't really anything that highlighted that was the case. And I think I was reading up online, other people interpret it completely differently and probably more accurately compared to what I was expecting. But it got me still thinking about that whole idea of, she's going into seclusion. The way that she treats the people who are trying to come back into her lives are going to affect whether that happens or not. So it really helps you, continue thinking about like, where is this woman's headspace, even though that's not what the film was going for. It still worked in the end for me.
This film has a lot of technical and stylistic choices that do feel off the beaten path, and yet there's something about it that is connective. I took those moments. I read some of the trivia. I didn't want to read too much because a lot of this trivia on IMDb is too much. Like, there's too much getting into like this thing is this thing. But I took those moments in the film almost as that sensation one gets, because it happens each time when she's like confronted with something. Like, something is confronting her, or the status quo is changing, or she's been given some information. And I took it as, and again, it's really important, like, fades in movies usually communicate passage of time or change of scene.
Transition of some
sort. I took it more as like making a fade now represent that feeling you get of your stomach dropping, or like time freezing in place, or you now realizing that everything has changed when you are given some new information. Like when you find out someone has died, or when you find out someone's sick, or when you find out that your partner's cheated on you, or when you find out something that really shakes you to your core. There's something that goes on in your mind where things slow down or stop or freeze, or you're like everything's shaking up in your mind. And I thought the fades to black and then back in the scenes kind of, and with the music, kind of represented that. It at least gave me that sensation when it happened the last 2 times. Because the first time it happened, I was also like trying to, film brain, like, what's the meaning of this? But then so much of this movie, I let go of that and just went with like, where am I being taken on this emotional ride? I was actually thinking a lot about filmmakers like Nicholas Winding Refn, who when we did Drive, so much of Drive was like that too, where it's like, here's barely any dialogue, here's a lot of visuals, here's a lot of odd transitions and music emphasis to tell this story that, when you lay it out, is fairly boilerplate. But there's something there underneath the hood. There's something there. There's a certain kind of emotionality that hits a chord with a lot of people. And I was actually feeling that a lot with this movie. It's not I mean, I was going to say it's not as overtly stylized, but that's not true. This film's very stylized with all of the blue and
just
stuff.
in its own way, yeah.
Using a simple filmmaking technique given of a fade and using it in a way that is different, it really does hit. And the fact that we can sit here and talk about, and you can read online different interpretations of it, just communicates across the point even more so. Like, this filmmaker and this team took a method of editing that we all know and just put it to a degree or two to the left, and now it has a different effect.
Yeah, it's something that's inherently unnatural, like a film transition of some sort that's usually used for one thing, but he's just using it specifically for the thing of like, hey, this is not a normal thing that happens in a conversation. Like, I'm talking to you, right? I'm going to reveal this new bit of information to you. Then we're going to completely freeze and like, dun, 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 dun,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're going to continue like that. That didn't even happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What did you feel about the look and the style of the movie? Because the performances and the subject matter, as mentioned, are fairly like low energy, very like matter of fact, very, very brutal. But the look and the style of the film can be very different than that.
An interesting observation that I had specifically for the fact that we're doing it on the podcast is that this is the second film in a row you've recommended that's about a widow.
Mm.
And they both do things very differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Dishonored, there is I'm just going to say more playful attitude to it, but that's more so, thinking about like, interactions with the antagonist of the film and the fact that that character had to be deceitful in some way. So there was like a certain element of play there.
She was being forced, yeah.
Yeah, but with a very heavy subtext undertones of, sadness and mourning and grieving.
It's a very quiet film.
Very quiet film, while also like having little moments of doing loud things here and there. Whereas this one felt a lot more naturalistic, despite all of the film techniques like the very loud music stings. And yeah, it felt a lot quieter and slower. Like when I first downloaded this film, because I had to download, I couldn't find a copy. I checked the runtime, just like, okay, how long am I, going to be in this for? Just so I can decide when to watch it. So
like 92 minutes or something?
Like 92, 93 minutes. I thought, oh, that's standard film length. This will, fly by. And it didn't. It felt like a very, very long journey.
But it has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's very intentional that way. Seeing where things are going and happening very slowly. You got all these moments of no dialogue. You just having the visuals speak to you. Both this and Dishonored are melancholic in very kind of different ways, even though they're about sort of a character that's going through similar things.
Yeah, and I always get frustrated with a critique that says style over substance, because that suggests that you can't have style as substance. This is a film that uses its style as substance. The blue is used in not subtle ways throughout the film, but it becomes subtle over time, the method of its use. And like at the beginning, you're like, oh yeah, blue because it's sad.
Yeah. Oh, blue wrapper. That's because the film's blue.
Her blue lollipop. The blue TV screen all of these things. And it's like, oh, blue is sad. I get it. This is a sad movie. She's sad. But then over the journey of her self-discovery and connections with other people, the blue still remains. And it's like, is the blue still remaining because sadness is always with us? But no, it's because blue can represent so many other emotions and feelings and ideas. And by the end of the movie, like, the biggest journey that we have is she smiles. Like, that's the big thing at the end of the movies. She smiles, and what do we cut to? Blue screen, blue credits. But that blue color feels different now. It feels like calming. It feels serene, because blue is also a color you can put with that, or even life itself. Like, blue is water.
It can be a cool, beautiful color.
Exactly. But when you start off the movie and she's got like her little blue, I don't know what you call that, like not jewel chandelier light.
I don't know if it's pronounced mobile or mobile, but it's like what babies have over their cribs.
Yeah, and she has that, and it's like, okay, we're going to be up for a sad time, and
it's like the one thing she keeps from her previous life to remind her of her daughter.
And it's, I would argue, maybe you could say otherwise, it's the most dialogue, and I don't mean dialogue in terms of characters speaking aloud, but I mean dialogue in the sense of like recognition of her having a daughter, a child. So much of this movie is about the husband. So much is everyone else talking about the husband. Oh, what a loss he was to the nation.
The
or what
funeral.
He lost.
It's like husband. We also lost her daughter or something.
Yeah, and
it was like an afterthought.
And few people, including herself, talk about the child. But that there, and the whole thing with the mice, and her herself being a daughter because she has a mum, those are the three main things that have dialogue with there being a loss of a child as well, and like her being no longer a mother. Because when you hear the premise of like a woman lost her husband and her small child, you would expect the small child aspect to be a big deal. It is, but it isn't positioned that way in a weird way. Like, those three things are subtle, like just woven into the tapestry, but so much is everyone coming to her and saying to her, your husband, we all loved him. He was great. Are you sad about losing the greatest man ever? And we know from the end of the movie he wasn't the greatest. He was he cheated on her and most likely stole her used her music to prop himself up and all of these other things. But also, he was a good guy. Like, it's not as black and white. But I thought the way that the film handled the child aspect was pretty compelling, because I was getting annoyed halfway through the movie that they weren't talking about that she lost a child that much. But then when the movie wrapped up and like the other woman's having a child and all of that, I thought, no, you've handled this in the way that it needs to be handled. And I actually think on a rewatch, I would actually find it more overwhelming, emotionally speaking, the way that it doesn't address it.
It's always interesting when you see how films or even entertainment products handle grief. Like, I've definitely played some things where, especially in some more Asian media, there's like an expectation of mourning. Like, oh, you just lost someone, you should be in mourning. Well, how could you be living your day-to-day life like this? You should be, not be having fun right now. You lost someone. You should be mourning. That's society pushing things onto you. Again, for this film specifically, like, he belonged to all of us. We're all in mourning. And it felt to me that throughout this film that, like, no, she is doing it in her own way. If she's not constantly, saying poetic things about like, oh, I miss my daughter, that's fine. That's not the way she's doing things.
But the film also is wise enough to acknowledge, like, you can't just cut yourself off to human connections and to your own emotions, because one of the big moments that is often discussed about this is when she drags her knuckles across that wall, the kind of jagged bricky wall, and she like cuts up her hand, which the actress did for real, by the way.
Oh, jeez.
Because they couldn't fake it. It's like, you can't wear a prosthetic glove. It looks too obvious. And she said, I'll do that. That moment is kind of the only moment in the movie that demonstrates anger and rage, which is a huge factor in grief. Like, the anger and the rage of that this has happened. But that's like the moment of the movie where she demonstrates that, because for the rest of the time she's either sad or she's trying to keep a brave face or she's literally running away, and she's just trying to be nihilistic, like the whole flute playing guy. His whole motto of like, you got to have something to hold on to, and she thinks, oh yeah, whatever. And then she sees like he left the flute behind, and she almost has like this reaction of like that, like self-satisfied little narcissist, like, yeah, that's right, he was wrong, nothing matters. But then he comes back, gets his flute, is, hey, you gotta hold on to something. And at the end of the movie, when she's getting back into her music, she suggests for the piece that they're using that they should use a flute because you got to have something to hold on to. Things like that. Pretty great. Pretty great.
That's something that maybe going back to that Red Letter Media quote, my brain noticed, but not necessarily I was thinking like the guy.
What were some other things of the movie that leapt out to you or you want to talk about?
So she has the new love interest character who's, what was he in relation to her husband? Like assistant or something?
Basically like his right hand that wasn't her. She was the real right hand. He was the other guy.
Yeah. Well, no, she was the body. He was the right hand, maybe. It's left up to interpretation. He's introduced early on, and she uses him in one scene as like a bit of a rebound, and then leaves him because like, hey, I'm choosing seclusion. Bye. I did find it surprising that the film did eventually come back around to him, and they became a couple in the end.
Kind of, yeah.
At least working together. They had a bit of chemistry going on. It did kind of feel like,
how much is he trying to fill the vacuum up of her husband? Like, he wants to be him. How much is that there? Yes,
from his perspective, but I was thinking more from her perspective, showing one of the many ways that she does change through her, her attitude throughout the film, going from seclusion, going back to, like, once you have the scene in that club where, she sees the report that he was on where he talked about how, we kept a copy of the music and I want to try to finish it. And also revealing that the husband, had a mistress. Seeing how she reacts to it in an emotional way, but not in like, a grief-stricken way or an angry way.
Or hysterical.
No, she reacts to it very coolly and very calmly changes her ways. Like, she has a whole kind of little dynamic with the mistress where she like
he loved you.
He loved you, yeah.
She gave you the gold necklace.
She does very right by her. Like, she cancels the selling of her home, says like, live here, give this to the child, let them live here. Shows selflessness and is more receptive to Olivier, her, potential love interest.
And you do get throughout the movie how much are people testing the boundaries and or using her? Or is that just we're so in her perspective, we feel that way because she handles this mistress situation with a lot of grace and a lot of dignity. But then the mistress character says at the end of this, "You won't hate me, will you?" Which is a pretty selfish thing to ask someone considering everything going on. But we don't know the full context of it all. Like, is that an inappropriate thing to say? Probably. But then when the next time we see, like later on when we see the mistress character, she's more pregnant and looking at, like, getting her belly checked out and all that. And that's like one of the few images we see before the end of the movie where our main character is smiling now about all of these connections that she has made. I really like the conversation she had with Olivier about like them having their bickering relationship about the music and him being like, I actually think I need to work alone on this one, and she gets it. It's like, yeah, so welcome to my world.
Just before you referenced the line about like, you don't hate me, do you? Before you said that, I was thinking like, oh yeah, there was that line and I was going to mention it, but then I stopped because I remembered that line, there was also a very similar line in the last episode we did, the bucket list. So it's like, oh no, that was from that film, not this one. No, it's in both.
It's in both. Use better here, but no, that's not true. There was one shot I really loved, just talking about shots. I really liked in the cafe when Olivier's caught up with her, found her, he tracked her down. There's this bit back and forth, and I can't remember if it's in this scene or there's a few scenes in this cafe, but she like puts in a sugar cube in her drink,
it becomes brown,
and you see it dissolve. I really liked that shot. I thought that was great, and I was thrilled to pieces that one of the first trivia facts I read was about how they got that shot, and it was all about like how desired that shot was. That the director, he did real Stanley Kubrick type attention to detail. He did like he needed it to be 5 seconds long. The dissolve, he needed it. Why? He just needed it. So they tested out. They went all over the place to get all of these sugar cubes and find out which one dissolves in 5 seconds. They got one that went in 7 seconds, one that went in 12 seconds. They needed a 5-second one. 7 isn't good enough. They got one that went for 5 seconds. And it's just so interesting, like, why does that matter? Why does that mean something? But at the same time, it's like, when I watched it, it felt right. You know, it didn't linger too long. Because that could be a very pretentious thing to do. And I wanted to ask you about that. Like, talking about all the style stuff and like all the blue representation, like everything, every color is blue, like all of these clothes are blue, all these things are blue. Did this film teeter or fall into pretension for you with those type of things? Because in a way we could mock that. Like there's ways that this could fall on its face of just like, here's a movie about a sad person, and it's called Blue, and she wears blue, and everything's blue, and like she's in a pool, and there's children who are wearing white and red, the other colors of the flag, and she's in like, you know.
Yeah. No, it didn't. It didn't ever get to that kind of tacky level. Every time it popped up, it's like, oh yeah, it's been a little while since we had something a bit more overtly blue, you know, being shown to me. No, it never felt like that. There might have been some times where, again, because the passage of time in this film felt so slow, where I like misguessed that, like, oh, is this the final scene of the film? Like, is it going to cut to credits in a moment? And it keeps going. I had a couple like that where it's like, oh no, there's more happening. I have to, you know, get back into the swing of things, and you know, that can be a bit disorienting.
There's a lot of repetition in the movie because cycles of grief, there's that. You fall into patterns, or you feel like you're in a pattern and you must break that pattern. But in trying to break that pattern, you form new patterns. And although this movie's only just over 90 minutes long, it feels longer because she's stuck as a character. She is stuck, mentally stuck. And like 90 minutes feels like way more because your character is stuck. But how do you make that character? How do you make a film about a person who is stuck, unable to progress? How do you make that something worth watching and worth following? Why should we feel this way? And it's like all of these things we've talked about, as well as these filmmaking choices that could fall on pretentious. Like when you hear there's a French film, you already have a level, at least I do, and I think many people do. Oh, it will be artsy fartsy. It's a French movie, right? But
whenever she pulled out a cigarette and lit it, I'm like, ooh, how French.
Yeah, with her little haircut. Juliette Binoche, the lead actress, she's been in numerous things. She's great here. She's one of those ones that's like, oh, I can see why you're casting this, because she just has that look of like, you look sad. You look like a sad person. I mean, she's in many things. Like The English Patient is what I know her best from, but apparently she was in the American Ghost in the Shell, so that's a funny.
Oh, there you go.
That's a funny one.
Yeah, I mean, look, from the perspective of, you know, oh, French film, it must be, you know, pretentious or something. There was a surprising amount of humbleness in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to think, is there anything else to say about Three Colors Blue?
There was a cat.
There was a cat. There was rat/mice.
Yeah, you, the very natural, you know, thing you do with your neighbors. I need to borrow your cat. Oh,
but she couldn't kill them herself. She was too afraid.
No, I know why she wanted the cat, but the process of going up to your neighbor, knock, knock, hello, yes, I need to borrow your cat. Oh, let me just get it for you.
No. Come on, give him credit. He warned that since
it
the
might
cat,
scratch you.
He's not neutered and he's alone, so he can be pretty aggressive. So watch out. I like that detail of like, it wasn't as simple as, oh yeah, I have my cat. It was a little bit of like,
there was a warning, but then he got it still.
Yeah,
It's like,
then she got it.
that's a friendly neighbor.
Yeah.
And around that time in the film, the cat at my house joined me in bed as I was watching the film. And when she, put the cat in the room with the mice or rats, closed the door and the cat made a meow sound, and a little sleepy cat between my legs raised his head. He noticed.
Heard. Like you with the Polish bit in the movie, you raised your head up and went, oh.
I really did, yeah. It wasn't necessarily that I immediately tacked on that, like, oh, Polish. It was like, hey, that's not French. And the subtitle was like, is it because I can't speak French or something along those lines? I'm like, that's Polish. The film's finally Polish.
And he did say that in Polish, right?
Yes, he was speaking Polish, yeah.
Yes, but the subtitles were lining up with what he was saying. Good. One bit I really loved was the music in the movie itself. Like the score of the movie was very, very good. And the fact that it does tie into what her character is and the husband, what he was, the composer. And I liked when she was finally getting back into music at the end and she was making notes on what to do with the music, like subtract this, add this. You actually hear those changes happening in real time with the music that is physically playing. Like, add this, and then you hear that being added, and rid of this, and get rid of that, and it happens. And it was not only great because it's like that's a fun idea. That's what you do movies for, kind of fun. But it was the thing of the music does sound better. Yeah, like it's one of those. Hey, the music does sound better.
And even before that, like she was like it was panning along the notes, and she was like tapping each note, and it was like playing in the score. And I was like, oh, I like this. I'm not very music savvy, but like this is something simple enough for dum-dum like me to appreciate.
I have one final thing to say before we wrap this out. I read something and it has like no one else backs up this claim. So one of the people in this movie, I can't remember if it was a producer or actor, but in 2018 at I think Cannes Film Festival, they revealed, again, no one's backed up this, that the original cut of this movie was not focusing on Julie. It was focusing on that reporter lady that was trying to get an interview with her and then eventually had the interview with Olivier. That it was focusing on her.
Okay.
And it was filmed in her in mind as the lead, and it was changed by the director, the focus in the editing. And I couldn't find anyone backing up that claim. And I'm not saying that's not possible, because it is factually possible to do these things. There was an Adrian Brody movie where he was the lead of the movie, and then the editing removed him entirely from the film. And it was a Terrence Malick movie, I'm pretty sure, and there's a great video on that where it's like how to make a movie where you edit out the lead. So I'm not saying it's not possible for that to happen, but at the same time, with what I'm presented from this movie, how the hell did they have it in mind with her as the lead?
I'm very skeptical of that.
I'm very skeptical, but I just had to raise that because it was a thing I read, and I watched the clip of this person saying it, but I have never seen anyone else back it up. But at the same time, although I'm skeptical, there have been cases and instances of other movies that actually have done that. Although I raise my eyebrow, I also don't raise it so high that I'm genuinely in disbelief. It's more just I wonder if that's true. I want to hear someone else say that.
Well, this is a circumstantial, observation. But in the credits, that character literally didn't even have a name. It was just the reporter lady or something. So maybe it was a deliberate omission just to really obfuscate the fact that she was the initial protagonist. But yeah, there's so much of this film that has nothing to do with her, that's set so far away from her, that if it's true, then this must have been like a 5-hour movie or something.
Yes.
With enough cutaways to, have footage to make Julie the main character.
Le journaliste.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're interested in seeing the other two movies after having seen this one?
Yeah, I reckon so. I'd like to see how, the existence of this film adds to the other films. Like, I have read that, like, the actress that plays Julie does reprise the role in Red, apparently.
So, interesting. See, I only know one or two things about the other connective tissues. Like, I know the second one's set in Poland. I know the third one is...
Yeah, I think I I skimmed through the Wikipedia page for, I can't remember if it was the trilogy in general or just Blue, but it was like talking about like connections, and it mentioned like the courtroom scene and something about the ending of Red, which maybe I read a little bit too much of that part, but
the only thing I know,
not enough context to even know what Red's about.
The only other thing I know is the openings of the movies are the same in terms of like, or similar in terms of like an old person trying to put something in the recycling. That's all I know.
Oh yeah, I read
That's
that too.
a recurring thing, and
there's a rule of threes thing going on with that apparently. Where like in the third film, it's different.
Yeah, so that was a great moment where our main character's just looking at this old woman struggling, this old person struggling to put a thing up high, and just doesn't help and just looks. Yeah. I have that in real life too. Bartek knows this. I have an elderly neighbor next door who I call grandma, and she's always doing some fucking weird shit, and I just kind of look at her and just be like, all right. And I just walk off. It's like, I'm just so not in the mood for whatever bullshit they're up to.
Yes. You're like Julie and apparently Carol.
Yeah, I'm like them both. And I don't know what the third one's protagonist is called, but I know this. Well, that is Three Colors Blue. I recommend. I thought this was tremendous stuff. I found it very hard-hitting. And I thought it was shot beautifully, acted beautifully, scored beautifully. I am interested in the other two films of the trilogy, only just because of not only the quality of filmmaking, but I am interested to see what they look like, because they have different cinematographers and they go for different styles.
Yeah, I think the Roger Ebert quote about the trilogy is like each one is like an anti-version of its genre. So like this one's the anti-tragedy, White's the anti-comedy, and I can't remember what the last one's meant to be, but it was also like
I just assumed it was romance because it's red, but I don't know that.
And we do have to do White because I really want to hear you try to say Zbigniew Zamachowski.
Is that a person in it?
It's Karol's actor, Zbigniew.
Oh, okay. What's White in Polish?
Biały.
Oh, yeah.
I think said this was it last week where I was like showing off that I know the word for blue and I said white by accident?
You may have, and now
I caught myself, but it was embarrassing.
Now you have eggs all over your face.
Yes, the colors are niebieski, blue, biały, white, and czerwony, red.
Yes. So the next episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about a film recommended by the listening people. That's you, the listening people. And we're going to cover a newer film.
Ooh.
It's a few years old, I think, now. I actually can't remember what year it is from, but we're going to be revisiting a genre we haven't done in a little while.
Okay.
Video game movie adaptation stuff. We're going to do Uncharted, the film.
I forgot that was on the list.
Yeah. I forgot it existed, but I looked at the list and I just went, we have too many horror films, and I have to pick one that's not, because we're going to be entering October soon.
Is this a Stefan one?
This is Stefan's pick, and he put Uncharted there, and I'm just like, we're going to do Uncharted, I guess. Now, and I'll say this up front, we'll say it again next time, I've never played an Uncharted game in my entire life. The closest I've ever done was when I was at the PAX convention. They had Uncharted 4, and I just kind of fucked around with it for literally 5 minutes, and just went, oh, that looks all right. And then I walked away. So I'm going to be coming into the next one not having played any of it, and just going off of my pop culture vibes and what I've heard, and to see if this movie is still a good movie or
hold
not.
on, Beaver, you have seen the fan film.
Yes, and I was going to talk, and I've seen the fan film with Nathan Fillion, but that's, again, so I don't know anything. I've never played the games.
Yep, I played the first two, and I've seen playthroughs of the third and fourth.
The only thing I know about the games, other than like general premise of like he's like Indiana Jones man and he has a wife, is the fourth one randomly out of nowhere pulls out of its butthole that he had a brother the whole time that inspired him, and everyone's like, what the fuck? But people really like that game anyway. I wonder, that's all I know about these games is the fourth one, which people love. People just have to take on face value that out of nowhere he has an older brother that was never mentioned before. It's like, at that point, it's like, you should mention that he had a brother, but That's
It's one of those
there.
interesting things where, like, the third game introduced an element of his backstory, and then the fourth game introduced another one that one didn't touch on.
Yeah, which is always a tricky thing to do. Well, thank you so much for listening, everyone. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter, Spit and Polish Presents. If you have films to recommend to us or thoughts to be shared with us, you can comment on our social medias, message us on those, or whatever comment sections allow you to do so, like YouTube. We have episodes on YouTube, but we also have an email address, which, what is that again, Bartek?
The email address is spitandpolished@gmail.com.
We have all of the information in the description of this episode for your convenience, and make sure to share our show around, rate and review. But until next time, listening people, remember to be kind to each other.
Don't fly over Poland.